Chapter 3. The Onboarding Process. The Vance Industries boardroom was a theater of polite, brutal warfare. It was a sterile, soundproofed chamber paneled in dark wood, designed to project an aura of unshakable stability. Today, however, a palpable current of disruption crackled beneath the polished surface of the 30-foot table. At its head, Alara felt the weight of a dozen pairs of eyes, all fixed on the man standing beside her. Liam Sterling's first day was not a quiet integration, it was a detonation. I'd like to formally introduce Liam Sterling, our new Chief Operating Officer, Alara announced, her voice resonating with a carefully practiced authority she didn't entirely feel. Her skin still prickled with the memory of his touch, a phantom heat that the boardroom's Arctic air conditioning couldn't quell. A murmur of reserved greetings rippled around the table. The board members, a collection of gray-haired men who had known her father, were skeptical. But no one's skepticism was more potent, more personal than that of Marcus Thorne. Seated to Alara's right, Marcus was the epitome of inherited privilege. With his blonde hair, patrician features, and a suit that cost more than most people's cars, he had always seen himself as the heir apparent to the company's number 2 spot. He looked at Lamb not as a colleague but as a usurper, his gaze a mixture of condescension and poorly concealed jealousy. Mr. Sterling joins us on a probationary basis to spearhead a new growth initiative, Alara continued, meeting Marcus's cool stare without flinching. He has the floor. Liam didn't move to the podium or motion for a presentation. Bo simply rested his hands on the back of a vacant chair, his presence commanding the room instantly. His gray eyes swept over the board, making each man feel singled out and assessed. "Good morning," he began, his voice calm but carrying an undeniable edge of power. "As Vance has tasked me with ensuring this company transitions from a market incumbent to a market predator, right now, you're treading water." He proceeded to dismantle their entire operation with the calm, devastating precision of a demolitions expert. He used no slides, no charts, only the sharp weapon of his intellect. He recited shipping margins and logistics data from memory, exposing the 4% bleed in their European distribution. He contrasted their meager 3 patents against Nexus Corp's 12, painting a stark picture of innovation stagnation. He laid out the very plan he had revealed to Alara in the privacy of her office, a blueprint for conquest that was as brilliant as it was terrifying. The older board members shifted, their initial skepticism melting into a mixture of awe and fear. They were witnessing a master at work for Alara. It was a dizzying, thrilling spectacle. Watching him dominate the room, she felt a surge of pride in her decision, immediately followed by a jolt of alarm at the intensity of that pride. This man was her subordinate, yet he held her as captive as the rest of them. Finally, Marcus Thorne decided he'd had enough. "It's a bold vision, Mr. Sterling," Marcus interjected, his voice smooth with practiced boardroom venom. "But Vance Industries was built on a foundation of stability and legacy. Your predatory approach seems to disregard the very culture that made us great. Some might call it reckless." He was baiting him, trying to paint Liam as a barbarian at the gates, a threat to the established order he so comfortably represented. Liam's gaze settled on Marcus, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 5 degrees. He didn't lash out. He didn't even raise his voice. He smiled, a thin, dangerous curve of his lips. "Thank you, Mr. Thorne," Liam said, the politeness more menacing than any insult. "We're right. Legacy is important. It's a foundation, but a foundation is something you build upon, not a monument you hide behind. The moment your legacy prevents you from innovating, it ceases to be a foundation and becomes an anchor. And anchors, as you know, only drag you down." He paused, letting the words sink in. "My job isn't to disregard your culture, it's to make it strong enough to survive the future." The takedown was absolute. Marcus Thorne, for the first time in his professional life, was left speechless, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. The rest of the board was silent, a clear victory for their new co-o. Liam had not only asserted his competence, he had established his dominance. The meeting concluded shortly after. As the board members filed out, offering Liam stiff but respectful handshakes, Lara felt a sense of vertigo. The professional had been exhilarating now. She dreaded the personal. "Walk with me," she said to Liam, her tone clipped and all business. They fell into step, leaving the boardroom and heading toward the private executive elevator. The corridor was a silent, empty space, but the air between them was thick with unspoken words. The memory of her surrender on the mahogany desk, of his promise of future performance reviews, hung between them, more real than the solid walls around them. The elevator door slid open with a soft chime. They stepped inside. The doors closed, encasing them in a small mirrored box. The professional world vanished. In an instant, Liam's demeanor shifted. The cool, strategic co-O was gone, replaced by the predator who had claimed her. He moved, crowding her against the mirrored wall, his body caging hers. One hand braced the wall by her head, the other rested on her hip, his thumb drawing a slow, possessive circle that sent a jolt straight to her core. "That went well," he murmured, his voice a low growl that vibrated through her. His mouth was inches from hers, his breath warm on her lips. "You embarrassed Marcus," she replied, her own voice unsteady. "He embarrassed himself," Liam countered, his eyes dark with an intensity that had nothing to do with business. "Now about my onboarding." His gaze dropped to her mouth. "You seem to have forgotten a key part of my compensation package." "This isn't the time or the place," she gasped, her hands coming up to rest on his chest, intending to push him away, but instead finding themselves clinging to the fine wool of his suit. "I disagree." His voice was velvet over steel. "My acquisition of Vance Industries includes all its assets, Alara, especially the primary one." He leaned in and captured her mouth in a kiss that was nothing like their first. It wasn't a brutal conquest, it was a firm, possessive reminder. It was the branding of a promise, a stolen, breathless moment of illicit fire in the cold, corporate heart of her empire. It was over as quickly as it began, leaving her gasping, her lipstick smeared, her composure shattered once more. He pulled back just as the elevator chimed, signaling their arrival at her floor. His expression was once again coolly professional, though his eyes blazed with triumphant fire. "We have a lot to cover," he said, his voice a normal conversational volume, the shift seamless and jarring. He stepped back, giving her space to breathe. "The details of the European logistic overhaul are complex. We should have a cut-night strategy session, my office or yours." He was asking about work, but the question was layered with a dozen other meanings. "My office or yours? My terms or yours?" His gaze held hers, challenging, promising. "Mine," she managed to say, stepping out of the elevator on shaky legs. 9 o'clock. "I'll be there," he confirmed, a ghost of a smirk playing on his lips. As the elevator doors began to slide shut, Alara's eyes met a figure standing down the hall, pretending to be engrossed in a conversation with another executive. It was Marcus Thorne. His head was turned, but his eyes were narrowed, fixed on the closing elevator doors that had just disgorged a flush and slightly disheveled CO and her new, impossibly confident Sue. He had been too far away to hear everything, but his sharp, suspicious gaze made it clear he'd heard enough. He had heard the words "late tonight" and "mine." And as the doors sealed Liam from view, the look on Marcus's face was no longer just jealousy. It was the look of a man who had just found the weapon he needed for his war.